New South Wales government is looking at introducing some new regulations around the low and high-rise medium building. Buying a house is not like buying a coffee. You've got to find something that where the numbers stack up, because a lot of the time they might not. If you don't design it right, the construction costs can blow out massively.
Good day everybody, it's Tony here from the Mortgage Chat. Hope you're well and thanks for joining me in another episode of the Mortgage Chat. I've got Charbel here from Refine Group who's going to talk about the proposed legislation changes on the building code in New South Wales. Thanks for joining me today, Big Charbel.
Thanks for having me again.
What's happening, mate? Tell me, what's going on?
Oh, it's been a wild few months again in the world of building, but it all seems to be going well, and things seem to be stabilising a little bit in the building market.
Yeah, what do you mean by stabilising, buddy?
I think the supplier issues and the trade issues, they're still there, but they're not as bad as they were, I think, over a year ago. So I think we're seeing a little bit of stabilisation with all that coming together now.
You mean prices or
prices, availability, supply. All of the above. So I think there has been an improvement. It's still not back where it was at pre-COVID levels, but it's a definite improvement.
So, mate, I got you in today because a few things been cooking up in the New South Wales Planning Department.
Yep.
I've heard about it probably about 6 months ago from someone internally from the Planning Department. But look, this is why I brought you in.
Yes.
Being a builder yourself. So, tell me, what's the proposed change?
So, the New South Wales government is looking at introducing some new regulations around the low and high-rise medium building. This seems to, I think what's piqued most people's interest is around the dual occupancies.
Yep.
And that is more, you'll see some different requirements now to what the standard SEP was and what they're now trying to introduce that people can do. So some of these changes include you can now the proposed building will be in an R2 zoning. Previously, you could only do an R3 zone, I think it was, and I'm not sure the other zones, but R2 wasn't one that was available.
Yep.
And you'll be able to do it on a 450 square metre block, a dual occupancy. That's an attached to attached dwellings.
Yep.
And also with a 12 metre frontage, where previously it was a 15 metre frontage. So when I talk about previously, I refer here to the SEP, the New South Wales SEP. Councils have their own specific rules, but they tend to be even more strict. So you might have needed a 20 metre frontage and a 1,200 square metre blocks in some councils. So these are an improvement on the SEP, a further improvement on the SEP, and they'll be enforced across the whole state. And the councils will have to adopt these changes moving forward.
Irrespectively.
Yes,
right.
that's
So
right.
it fits into that criteria.
Yes, that's right.
You have to proceed with it, right?
That's right. And it won't any longer be the council requirements. That this will overrule the council's requirements.
Yeah, because right now there's a few councils that are actually not participating on some of these changes that the New South Wales government approved.
Yes.
Right. So now you're saying, hey, do you know what? They actually have to, irrespectively, they have to agree on what we are approving.
Correct.
Yeah?
This will be across the board. This won't be a council decision. They'll have to. There'll be no right of refusal. They'll have to adopt these changes. But it will still go through council. But the council cannot refuse this if you meet the criteria that's proposed in these new changes.
For people that don't know what you're referring to as, medium to low density properties.
Yep.
Can you explain a bit more?
Yeah, so medium to low density generally sits in dual occupancies, which is an attached dwelling and can be a detached dwelling as well. So you build in on a normal block that could fit one house, you now put in two houses, and they're generally Torrens titled. The other options is manor housing, which are could be 10 houses in a row that are all connected with a common wall. And also townhouse type of developments. And then at mid-housing starts to step into, I can't remember the exact stories, but I think it's up to 8 stories. And from that 3-story, the walk-ups to the 8 stories, that tends to be where this whole area is starting to focus on. So they call it the medium density and low density housing, which is over the past, I think, few years in Sydney has been a real problem area. We either seem to get, a 30 apartment building or single houses. There seems to be nothing in between, which is where I think been a real problem for a lot of people, because Apartments, I think, mostly are delivering like the 1 to 2 bedders.
Yep.
The 3 bedders are quite rare.
Yep.
And if you're a family with, there's 2 of you plus 2 children, there's 4 all up, it's very difficult to live in a 2-bedder.
Yep.
And the 3 bedders tend to be so expensive, you're almost spending the same price as you would buying a house. So I think this is one area where it's really lacking at the moment.
Yep.
And I think that's why there's been a focus on it.
It's been lacking the last probably 4 or 5 years,
Yes.
hasn't it?
Yes.
Right. There's always going to be that. There's always been that big shortage of townhouses,
Yes.
villas,
Yes.
right around the area. Right.
Yep,
so
definitely.
so first home buyers, their problem was, well, I don't want to move away from the city because I work there, I love the lifestyle, but hey, the maximum I can afford is a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
Right. Or do you know what? If I want to live in a bigger house, I've got to live out west, for example, a bit more. And it's gonna be like an hour and a half travel door to door.
So one of the ways they've been trying to deal with this and meet this supply requirement for housing is by releasing land at the southwest and the northwest, let's say. But these are now starting to hit the fringes of Sydney.
Yep.
And they don't work for a lot of people who are work in town, or they want their kids to go to certain type of schools and so on from there. So it's been a real problem. Like you can't just keep delivering housing in the fringe locations to meet the needs. It's just not necessarily going to work. So I think by reintroducing or upgrading these planning rules, they will apply to already established areas, which will make more land available in those areas for people to start buying.
It's a better use of land, existing
100%.
land in a
Yep.
way.
Yes,
right?
it's better use of existing land.
Because you could have like an old building there that's probably built in the 1950s, 60s, that's ready to knock down.
100%.
But hey, do you know what? Now I can knock it down and build 2 dwellings in it,
Yeah.
right? For people that don't want to move out west.
Yeah.
And I can spend, I can spend the same amount of money if I was to buy a massive house out west.
Yeah.
And I can keep my similar lifestyle in city.
So you're right. Like, say let's say in the 1960s, it was common to have 1,000 square meter block or an 800 square meter block, and the type of house would have been a single story, and that might have worked. And really, the amount of house that was utilized on that land might be a quarter of the house utilized on the land. And let's fast forward now to 2024. No one has time to maintain a backyard of that size.
Yeah.
No one has time to do the gardening anymore.
Yep.
The houses now, double stories are almost the norm. We've improved in the way we design things. We've improved in our technology. So you can now fit, you can address that family's need on a block that might be 300 square meters and double stories, and gives them a better outcome for the way they're living now, because they don't have time to look after the 1,000 square meter block anymore.
Yeah.
So I think this is where governments are trying to address our planning laws to kind of align with how we live now.
Yep. So just to break it down, right? 450. So the proposed changes is going to be a 450 block,
Yes.
12.5 meter frontage.
12 meter frontage.
Minimum.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that would bring a big opportunity.
Yes. And R2 zones as well, which is a big amount of land. Like a lot of things are in Sydney, in these areas are zoned R2.
So that brings a lot of opportunities.
Yes, it does.
Hate to say it. Yes, for consumers.
Yes.
Right. To instead of buying an apartment, they can have more choices for townhouses or duplexes, whatever you want to call it. But also gives opportunity for developers.
Yes.
Or mum and dad builders out there that want to capitalize on this as well.
So I think in the dual occupancy market, duplexes, detached dwellings, etc., where there's 2, a big area has been that type of development was actually really done by investors, mum and dad investors.
Yep.
I don't think you saw, the big lend leases and etc. from there doing that kind of area. That wasn't their type of development. And I think affordability has become a real problem for people to invest, for the investors to come into that part of the market. And hopefully, because previously you would have to go 1,000 square meter block with a certain type of frontage that was in a certain zoning, and that those blocks were selling for top dollar because they were a development site.
Yep.
Hopefully, with this change, you'll have more supply of that type of development, and hopefully it'll be a bit more affordable for people to start delivering that type of development, which usually comes from the mum and dad investors.
Yeah. And even though there are mum and dad investors or developers, what do you want to call them, but it's sort of, you can't sort of capitalize too much on that certain area, right? So for example, you know, if I bought a block for 1.4 mil, for argument's sake, you know, and my cost to build for the duplex is $1 million, 2.4 mil, well, they can't go out and sell it for $2 million, can
That's
they?
right. That's right.
Because it might be overpriced for the area what
That's
they want
right.
it for.
That's
So
right.
the margins, the profits.
Yeah,
might not
the
be
margins
that way,
haven't been
right?
so. Again, I think we can acknowledge in the last 3 years the growth in Sydney has been phenomenal.
Yep.
In pricing
Yep.
and what houses have gone up, and that's really pushed those profitabilities of those type of developments of the dual occupancies to make them viable anymore. They're just not; those numbers aren't stacking up. So hopefully this might help a little bit to make that, I think, a profitable investment for people.
Yeah.
And also, I think another area we're kind of not seeing here is people sitting on that land. It opens up. They might just been on that block for the last 20 years, and it's now an opportunity for them to develop it.
Yeah.
I think that's another area. I think it's something we've got to be clear on as well. So it's not just necessarily the developers; it gives the opportunities to people who are existing on those type of blocks.
Yep, 100%. So we spoke on your last time you came here. We spoke about you had a little project on the side, right? So you can sort of somehow put the same logic on the new proposed plans to what you're doing now, right? So tell me about it, right? What do you think the similarities are in between the current proposal and the proposed legislation that's coming out and the existing one?
Yeah. So that's a dual occupancy.
Yep.
It was a corner block which you're allowed to subdivide into two houses. It's gone well. We're just about to go to market with it. It's been pretty successful, but it's gone slower than I would have hoped. It's not due to the building. It's actually due to both the approval process and also trying to get the final OC. So they're kind of bureaucratic related type of things. It all seems to take a lot of time, which is obviously money to any builder developer. So, I mean, I'm hoping these new changes will start to streamline some of these processes because they're not totally just going through council. They will. New South Wales government is getting directly involved with this, and because the aim now is to deliver this housing at speed. I mean, they know they need it. There's a crisis. There's a housing crisis right now, and it needs to be delivered at speed.
Speed's one thing, right? But what sort of cost that's incurred that you sort of didn't account for?
Yeah.
Right. For especially for your mum and dad builders out there.
Yeah.
Right. You know, if you're having problems with as a builder with these constraints, right, mate, I wouldn't even know what sort of problems they're going to have.
Yeah, so I think one of the things was how involved the stormwater was. It wasn't something we didn't think it'd be that technical. This ended up probably adding at least 120,000 to the overall build.
120 grand.
Yes, which on, let's say they each cost 500 to build, we've now added, that's a pretty big part of it. And it really adds no benefit to the homeowner. This is a requirement specifically for council. It's a detention system that slows down the flow going out to the street. That really, I mean, that benefits the community, but it doesn't really, the homeowner sees no value in that. It's not like they've upgraded their kitchens or upgraded anything from that. So that was something we kind of spent a lot of time with council negotiating. We tried to propose a lot of different options and we couldn't get it through. They pretty much insisted we put a hole in the ground that was 6 by 10 by a metre high, and that had to be dug out. And it's a detention system that fills up and slowly releases to the street. So it kind of ate into space on the rear yard. It ate into money, and it took a lot of time to slow down the whole approval process. And they're things you just don't think that you don't really account for to start with. And so it was definitely a large constraint for us. Which again didn't add any real benefit to the overall development.
Okay, so now that you've gone through the project from start to finish, knockdown, rebuild, approvals, now getting a subdivision involved, and about to sell it as well, right? So for anyone that's out there waiting for this proposal to be passed and hoping they can develop the block of land, right? What are the things that you should tell them to look out for? Yeah,
so I mean, I think.
Sorry about that. Not even them sitting on the block of land, but them even considering buying a block of land and hoping to develop it.
Yeah, I think fall into the street seems to be one that's quite important because a lot of the councils don't allow you to charge systems out to the street. So you want a block fall into the street.
So when you say block fall, as in the face has to fall downwards?
Correct. So the rear is higher, the front is lower. That would be one thing, because it seems to be, with these stormwater, seems to be the real kind of contentious issue with councils. That would be one thing. I think also you have to, as with anything you buy, but you have to try get it at a good price. Like there's no point overpaying for it and then not making any money on it. So you've got to find something that where the numbers stack up, because they a lot of the time they might not, and the margins are tight. They're not as
Not as good as it used to be.
not as good as it used to be. So you've got to find the right development, the right price product, or the right price land to be able to do.
So that's essentially that's your feasibility themselves.
And like even then, I would try look for the wider the block, the better. I mean, I know they're saying 12, but when I look at it, 12 plus a garage plus a front door, it doesn't give you a lot of. It doesn't give you a lot of scope. You can do more with a block that's wider than one that's narrower. So you want to try look for that. That's definitely a bonus when you go to build.
I mean, the margin's definitely eaten up right now, especially these high interest rates. Right. So when you started your construction, the rates were probably close to about 3%. Right now it's probably around 6.5%. So already that 3.5% of margin's eaten up.
I have this argument. We've done okay out of this development. Like I'm not denying it, but when I say to people, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I think we'd say 70%'s made in the time that we sat on the land of the profit, and then the other 30%'s made in the overall development.
Which is not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, but I don't know who's to say we can have the same growth in the next 3 years. So you just got to be conscious of that as well. So people, when you see these people with these really successful developments, sometimes it's just been made through luck in the purchase of the land and sitting on the land.
Sometimes we would have land banked that.
That's what I'm saying.
Ago,
but land banking costs, as you said, it was probably more feasible a few years ago as the interest rates were lower, but it's not feasible now when you're paying the percentages that you're paying in relation to it.
A few things, right, is the land's gone up too high. The cost of building's gone up. The rates has gone up.
Exactly right. It's a perfect storm.
It's a perfect storm. You're not going to get margin.
No, that's right.
You're not going to get margin.
So you've got to select it properly. It's not as simple as it sounds, 100%. And you've also, the other thing I found difficult, I mean, we've always kind of done custom homes in that $1 million plus range. So those finishes are a little bit better than your standard project home or even your lower end project homes. Now, if we delivered that same product in Seven Hills, we just wouldn't have got the money returned on it. So we had to reduce the finishes a little bit to what we would normally do. But
because you're not overcapitalized.
You don't want to overcapitalize to that market. So, and I see that happen a lot with duplexes, like because they are custom designs and they tend to go to a more custom architect. If you don't design it right, the construction cost can blow out massively. It can become very expensive.
So put it into perspective.
Understand what it's selling for. Understand what the market in that area is wanting, and then deliver that product. So there's no point delivering $2 million duplexes built each in an area that's only selling for $2 million to start with a duplex. So it's you've got to be.
Well, it makes sense, right? Like, for example, somewhere like I'm just going to use Seven Hills as an example because that's where your project is, right? You probably paid what, 2.5 per square meter?
Yeah, let's say
$2,500 per square meter. In comparison, and that's market, not overcapitalizing the market, right? And you'll probably spend around $4,000 per square meter in somewhere like, call it Concord or Sheffield.
Right. Yeah, probably closer to $6 even,
Right? And that's when you're not overcapitalizing.
That's right. And yet that market expects a different finish. Now, if you deliver those same finishes that you would have in Concord at Seven Hills, you've lost on the job.
Yeah. All right. So let's get back talking about the new proposed change in the building code, right? The approval could take any time. It'll be next month or 6 months away or even 12 months away. All right. How long do you reckon or you think that, because you're a member of the HIA.
Yes.
Aren't you? So, so you're aware of this stuff.
Yeah, I sit on the planning committee. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. What sort of time frame do you see the full effect is going to come in place? Right? Like I'm talking about approvals. I'm talking about the council New South Wales planning approving the change.
Yes.
I'm talking about knocking down, rebuild. I'm talking about getting the plans, knocking down, rebuild, building, subdivision, all that. What time frame do you give for these consumers out there to see, hey, more townhouses, more villas out there for sale in certain areas?
Look, I think they're saying they want to get these done, say by mid-year, let's say July.
You mean the approval for the proposed plan?
They
proposed
want
change,
to
yeah?
implement these changes.
Yep.
You're going to be 3 months for architects and just to lodge the DA.
Yep.
So that, let's say that takes you to September this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then approvals can anywhere be from 3 to 6 months.
Yep.
Let's say. So let's say you get on site, you get approvals, you're on site by February, March next year. It's going to be a 1 year building process. So I think it would either be very late next year before you start seeing some delivery.
1 year building process.
Yep. Or the following, the following year.
Yeah.
So,
1 year. Look, 12 months right now is a bit optimistic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is probably been a
Right.
bit optimistic. I'm saying best case scenarios here.
Yep.
I think you think it's optimistic, but I think there has been an availability of trades has become better. So
Yeah. Why do you think that?
The market's definitely slowed. The building market has slowed.
Yeah.
I don't think it was what it was 12 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, people are able to get trades. Availability seem to be a little bit better at the moment.
So we are hoping in the next, call it 2 to 2.5 years,
Yeah.
we're going to bridge that gap between houses and apartments with medium density
Yes.
dwellings.
So early
townhouses.
2026 would be an optimistic outcome.
Yep.
That's where your question's going. I think
Yeah.
that would be an optimistic outcome.
Yeah.
But it's at least some kind of outcome in comparison to having zero at the moment.
Yeah, 100%, right? I think that's what first home buyers should, or even upgraders should be looking for, right? They don't, even though I live in the West, you live in the West,
Yes.
right? It's not a bad place, but some people are just not made for the West,
That's right.
that lifestyle, so they want to stay in the city, right?
Yeah.
And hey, do you know what? The only thing that I can afford in my budget is a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
Right, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
I can't afford a house, so I'm stuck with either one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think having the opportunity to buy a townhouse, to buy a villa in the West, I think that will just opens up the market for them a lot more.
Yeah. So it's as we said, a family that has, there's 4 of them. A 2-bedroom apartment is very difficult to make work. So
Yeah.
they are plugging the gap by using the dual occupancies and
Yeah.
the townhouse, manor housing, whatever you want to call it. But this is an area where they're trying to plug that gap a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
An existing area where people want to live. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, good. Let's talk about the building industry in general.
Yep.
Right. So I think we had you on the show about 12 months
Yep.
ago. The construction industry was pretty bad back then, right? It was a mixture of everything.
Yeah.
Delays on
Yes.
on materials, shortage of workers.
Mm-hmm.
The costs just blew up,
Yep.
right? So what has changed, mate? The last 12 months.
I think interest rates have what caused a lot of change.
Yep.
So interest rates are really hurting, I think, particularly that mortgage belt environment. So, anyone who's building from the 500 to 2 million range would tend to be taking out a mortgage. And, that's the desired effect of increasing interest rates.
Yep.
It was to slow down spending. And that's had a flow-on effect now to the building market. I think there was a lot of work in the pipeline that is now all being finished off. And
Yep.
you're starting to see there's not the same amount as new work coming on.
So let's talk about pipeline of work, right? So a lot of people don't understand what you mean by the pipeline of work. So correct me if I'm wrong, right? What you mean by pipeline work is like, let's say for example, I bought a block of land, call it 4 years ago, right? It hasn't been subdivided or anything. It's taken 2 years for the land to complete registration,
Yes.
right? And settle on it. Then the builder jumps in, right? Probably about 6 months later, call it 3 to 6 months later, start building. So what you're referring to is the backlog is, hey, all these hundreds of blocks of land, hundreds and hundreds of blocks of land got released, settled at the same time. Then that's when the builders came in.
partially.
That's what you're referring to, right?
Buying a house is not like buying a coffee. From the time you make the deposit to the build is really going to be, being very optimistic, it's going to be 12 to 18 months, right? That's being optimistic. Now, that's taken out what you just discussed about, which is greenfield estates, where they are releasing land. That land is sold unregistered and usually anywhere between 12 to 18 months before it even registers. So people will buy that land unregistered, put a deposit on that land, then go to their builder, get a contract on that, and the builder can't start building until that land is registered. So again, that process could be anywhere between really to completion. I think anywhere between 24 to 36 months.
Yep.
So,
But it's just not that. It's just not that, Charbel. It's like that stage 1 release.
That's
got stage 2.
That's what I'm
stage
saying.
3,
There's
stage
a lot of
4, right?
stages. So we've had a lot of pipeline. There's been a lot of backlog work
And
because
that's what I mean by
that's why I
backlog.
mean backlog.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it came too with government incentives and so on from there, and that work has now started to flow through the system and be completed.
Yep.
A lot of it did come at once, and that's now being completed, right? Now, if you look at also the numbers statistically, new home sales have declined. There just hasn't been as much. And again, that is due to interest rates
Yep.
now. They're actually taking an effect. People are reluctant. They don't have the same amount of money to spend because they can't borrow as much. The borrowing capacity you would attain to this. This is your area.
Yeah, our construction list has gone down like no tomorrow.
Right. So that's gone down.
Yeah.
Cost of land is increased. The cost of construction's increased due to inflation and supply issues and COVID-related supply. Availability of trades increase. So you've had all of these things that have kind of been going on for the last 12 months,
Yep.
right, now start to really take effect. Because as I said, best case scenario, you're going to maybe be on site, you're going to finish your house within 12 to 18 months,
Yep.
right? That is now coming to effect. And so we're now, I think, at that cusp where that pipeline of work is now running out
Yep.
and not a lot of new work is coming on
Yep.
because they haven't sold due to the constraints. And that's why we're seeing a slowdown in the building
And look, in a
industry.
way, it's a bit scary for these big builders, aren't they?
Yeah,
There's no work
I
going
think
through.
there is a problem, yeah.
There's no work going through. There's no new home sales. Then, well, where's the revenue going to come from?
Well, someone told me a term the other day, which has been interesting. We've been in a boom, but it's what they call a profitless boom,
Yep.
right? So because of all these costs associated around problems we had, COVID, supply constraint issues, inflation, etc., the margins have been eroded for builders, right?
Yep.
So they have been eroded. There's no denying that,
Yep.
right? So, previously they might have made, the good times they might have made some decent margin, and as it starts to slow
30,
down,
right? It's talking about 30% margin.
yeah,
Close,
you're right.
you're
So let's say
Close,
they're making
right?
good margin, and they would have banked up some money.
Yep.
But that kind of didn't tend to happen that much in this last boom, I think, because I think we can agree it was a profit. It
Yeah.
was.
Well,
it was a tougher environment, right?
Well, put it this way, right? They signed a fixed price contract 2 years ago.
That's right.
Let's call it 18 months ago,
Yeah.
for argument's sake, right? Call it for 550, but their cost of build, the contract was 550, but the materials as progressively
Yeah.
went up to about, call it 600 grand.
Yeah.
Right, so they probably lost a bit of
That's
money.
exactly right. Like,
And that's
well,
what
not all of them. I mean, people, they might be losing, but they're at least definitely the margins eroded.
Yeah,
Like,
well, that's why
that's not what it was where it was.
Yeah, well, that's why a lot of the builders went bankrupt.
That's
Well,
right. And you can see
right?
this. I mean, again, the amount of builders that have gone into bankruptcy in the last, I think, 6 months has been massively increased. And I think part of this is that problem, right? It's that same problem. So it is affecting the industry.
Yeah.
But as I said, it's affecting it in one way. But then, to the people who can build right now, I think you'll get a better product and at a faster than you have in the last 12 months because availability has got
100%.
better. So it's it's a double-edged sword, so to speak.
A lot of people don't know this. Okay, so end of last year, I think there was a big change on the building industry.
Yeah.
I think it was called the BASIC.
Yeah.
The changes in BASIC. Mate, what is it?
So basically, government's introduced a 7-star rating to the basics.
7-star rating?
Yeah. So
okay.
it's again, I don't want to profess that I'm an expert on this, but this is what I kind of roughly know. It was a 7-star rating, and a lot of it had to do with cooling and heating of the houses.
Right.
So it's pretty stringent. So a lot of designs would normally go for a basics rating, and you might have to put some insulation, and let's say on average that the whole basics previously would have cost you 10,000 to do to meet the basics requirements. This now has increased the level of basics you have to achieve. So this could be, like I said, the heating and cooling. The usage of certain appliances, like gas is no longer in vogue. They don't want you using that. And also the amount of electricity certain appliances that you have in the house use, etc. and that now cost it could easily, that same project might have been 10 grand.
Yep.
It's now 40 grand.
Yep.
And that's a massive cost, right?
Yep.
Now,
And who introduced this? What's the reason to introduce?
the government introduced it because they're trying to improve basically our usage on electricity.
Yep.
On the cool, so they don't want us relying on aircon all the time, for
Yep.
example,
Yeah.
and relying on heating, and they're trying to make that happen through good design. That's kind of what they're trying to focus
Yeah.
on, but it's not. These changes are never that simple.
Yeah.
And it's introduced at a time when cost of housing
I was just gonna say.
blew up through the
I was gonna
roof,
say.
right? So,
Right, so people
its timing wasn't great.
So people can't afford to build a house,
That's right.
right? And they know housing affordability is a problem. They want to introduce more incentives to build a house, but it's going to cost you more.
So one of the things you had to do, for example, in order to achieve some of these ratings, you had to have triple, like double glazing, triple glazing, right? Like our windows industry, for example, wasn't even set up to kind of do that.
Yeah.
Like it's taken some time to even
Yeah,
implement
yeah.
that. We don't even. It's quite common supposedly in Europe, but it just wasn't here. And so there's just been a lot of changes that have had to come around this and come with it. So it's been. I think it's been tough. The other thing I understand too is like on custom houses, with a very detailed. Sometimes you have to actually redesign the house because you can't make it work to suit. So it's not just as simple as, well, you spend more money. Sometimes the design doesn't even, if you use that design, you can't make it work.
Yeah, right.
You have to redesign the house.
Yeah, right.
So it's been, I don't think we've seen the full effects of this.
Okay.
I think one of the reasons we haven't seen, because there has been such a slowdown in the builds, from what I understand, and I'm hearing like December last year and January this year were some of the slowest sales for housing, particularly on the project home side of things. So I still don't think we've seen, and this is when that started to come through. So I understand some of the builders are still struggling to get these through and to even get the pricing sorted in relation to this. So it has been another issue to throw in the pool of other issues to deal with
Yeah, I know.
for builders and housing. So again, we keep talking about this perfect storm.
Yeah.
If you try to do sometimes I feel like if you tried to make all these things happen to stop the build industry, you couldn't have done it. You just can't even imagine some of these things becoming an issue, and they've just all become these large issues. I don't discount the government's reasoning behind this was wrong.
That's right.
I actually don't want to argue that. Like, I understand we have to improve. Our resources aren't infinite. I mean, we have to work on a way to improve how we use our resources in this country and in the world. But it just felt like the timing just was really bad.
Worst timing.
And it felt like it wasn't thought through entirely, the effects of it. Like some of the things they requested, we're not even set up to do them in this country. We don't have those materials, or we don't have that supply chain to even deliver on it.
Yeah.
So that's where it became a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, but it's killer.
Yes,
right?
it is.
Right. Fun times ahead.
Yep.
Hey. So guys, there you have it. That's another episode of the Mortgage Chat. And I have to thank Big Charbel for coming in today from Refine Group. Charbel, where can they find you, buddy?
www.refinegroup.com.au, or just look us up on Instagram or Facebook as always. You'll see what we've been doing at that time.
Legend.
Thank you.
We'll have to see you next time. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.